First-class cabin. Dr. Maya Richardson settles into 2A, exhausted from a 16-hour surgery saving a child's life. Flight attendant Jessica arrives with champagne cart. Serves every passenger except Maya. Cold stare. This section is for paying customers only. Maya holds up her first-class ticket. Jessica's smile vanishes. Other passengers watch in silence. Tension crackles. The champagne cart gleamed under fluorescent lights, crystal flutes catching every reflection. Dr. Maya Richardson pressed her head against seat 2A, leather cool beneath her temple. 16 hours in surgery, a child's heart beating strong because of her hands. Jessica, the flight attendant, moved down the aisle with practiced efficiency. Champagne for 1A, champagne for 1C. She paused at 2B, smiled warmly at the elderly white man. "Welcome aboard, sir." "Champagne?" She rolled past Maya without stopping. Maya lifted her head. "Excuse me?" Jessica turned, her smile transforming into something carved from ice. "Yes? Could I have champagne, please?" The flight attendant's eyes traveled from Maya's face to her worn medical bag, to her simple blazer. "This section is reserved for first-class passengers only, ma'am." The cabin temperature seemed to drop. Maya reached into her purse, hands steady from years of surgical precision. She held up her boarding pass. "Seat 2A, first class." Jessica's expression didn't change. She glanced at the pass like it was a forgery. "I see." She moved the cart forward without pouring. "I'll be back." The man in 2B cleared his throat, looked away. Across the aisle, a businessman suddenly found his phone fascinating. The woman behind Maya shifted in her seat, headphones already covering her ears. Maya's medical badge caught the light from her open bag. The metal felt cold against her fingers as she pushed it deeper inside. Jessica disappeared behind the curtain. The champagne cart sat abandoned in the aisle, bottles sweating condensation. Every other first-class passenger held a glass. Maya sat with empty hands and a heart that knew this rhythm too well. 24 hours earlier, Maya had stood in operating room 3 at St. Catherine's Hospital, her team assembled like an orchestra, awaiting the conductor's baton. The monitors beeped steadily. A 7-year-old boy lay between life and uncertainty. "Scalpel," Maya said, her voice cutting through the tension. The surgery took 16 hours. Maya's hands never wavered, not when the boy's pressure dropped, not when the repair seemed impossible. She rebuilt a valve with precision that made the attending residents hold their breath. When the heart resumed its proper rhythm, the room erupted in quiet celebration. Maya didn't celebrate. She never did until the patient woke. He woke at dawn, brown eyes finding his mother's face, then Maya's. "Am I fixed?" he whispered. Maya smiled. "You're fixed." In the surgeon's lounge, she finally checked her phone. 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, all from her daughter, Jasmine, each one more excited than the last. The graduation was in 2 days. Cap and gown photos, rehearsal updates. "Mom, I can't wait to see you." Maya had missed 6 months of moments for the operating room. 6 months of choosing other people's children, because that's what cardiac surgeons do. Jasmine understood, said she understood. But understanding and not minding are different countries. She booked the first flight out. First class because the hospital insisted, because she'd earned it. Because maybe she could sleep on the plane and arrive as something other than exhausted. Her apartment was dark when she packed. Maya's reflection stared back from the bedroom mirror. A 43-year-old woman who'd fought for every credential, every surgery, every acknowledgement. Her medical badge hung from her bag strap, catching streetlight from the window. Dr. Patricia Chen, her mentor, had given her that badge 15 years ago. "Wear it like armor," Patricia had said. "Let them see your excellence before they see anything else." Maya touched it now, metal warm from her body heat. She thought of Jasmine waiting at the airport, of walking across campus together, of her daughter seeing her mother as someone who belonged everywhere. She closed her bag. The flight would be easy. Just 5 hours. Then she'd be exactly where she needed to be. The elderly man in 2B leaned toward Maya, his voice low but audible. "First time flying first class?" He smiled like he'd offered a kindness. Maya turned to him. "No, I fly first class frequently." "Oh." His smile dimmed. "Well, sometimes there are mix-ups with seats." "I'm sure they'll sort it out. There's no mix-up. This is my assigned seat." He nodded slowly, that particular nod that said he didn't believe her but wouldn't argue. He returned to his newspaper, creating a wall of rustling pages between them. Jessica emerged from the galley with another flight attendant, a younger woman named Sarah. They approached together, a united front. Jessica's expression had hardened into professional ice. "Ma'am, we need to verify your boarding pass again." Maya handed it over. Jessica studied it like a document requiring forensic analysis. She showed it to Sarah, who nodded seriously. Other passengers watched now, not even pretending disinterest. "This seems legitimate," Jessica said finally, as if the possibility surprised her. She handed it back. "However, we've had reports of disruptive behavior." Maya's breath caught. "Disruptive behavior? I asked for champagne." "Your tone was aggressive, ma'am." Several passengers expressed concern. The lie hung in the air, visible to everyone, and acknowledged by no one. The businessman across the aisle suddenly became absorbed in his laptop. The woman behind Maya adjusted her headphones. The man in 2B turned another page. "I wasn't aggressive," Maya said quietly. "I was polite," Jessica sighed, a performance of patience exhausted. "Ma'am, if you continue to cause a scene, I'll have no choice but to contact security. First class is meant to be a peaceful environment for all our valued passengers." Sarah nodded sympathetically, at Jessica, not at Maya. "I haven't caused any scene," Maya said. Her voice remained level, surgeon steady. "I simply requested the same service being provided to every other passenger in this section. Are you calling me a liar?" Jessica's volume increased just enough. Just enough for the gate agent near the door to glance their way. Just enough for the narrative to shift. Maya felt the familiar weight settling across her shoulders. The exhaustion from 16 hours of surgery suddenly felt like 16 years of these moments. Every time excellence wasn't enough, every time her presence required justification, she could escalate. She could demand a supervisor. She could make her credentials visible, pull out the proof of her achievements, her respectability, her worthiness, or she could sit in silence and let them erase her. The choice shouldn't exist. Yet here it was again. "I'm not calling you anything," Maya said finally. "I'm simply asking to be treated like every other paying passenger." Jessica's smile returned, sharp as a scalpel. "Of course, ma'am. We treat all our passengers with equal respect." She turned to Sarah. "Let's continue our service duties." They walked away together. Maya sat in 2A with her empty hands and her first-class ticket and her medical badge hidden in her bag where no one could see it. Maya's hands rested on the leather armrests, perfectly still. These hands had held a child's heart hours ago, had repaired valves and vessels with precision measured in millimeters. They didn't shake. They never shook in the OR. They didn't shake now either. Outside, composed, professional, the model of dignity under pressure. Inside, a storm system building pressure, the kind that appears on radar as colors too bright to be safe. Her phone buzzed. Jasmine's text lit the screen. "Flight status shows on time." "I'm leaving campus now. Can't wait to see you, Mom. You're my hero." Maya's thumb hovered over the keyboard. What could she type? That her daughter's hero couldn't get champagne. That excellence doesn't shield, doesn't protect, doesn't change how eyes are trained to see. She set the phone down without responding. The man in 2B turned another page of his newspaper. The businessman across the aisle sipped his champagne, the glass catching light like a tiny lighthouse. Everyone had settled into comfort, into the privilege of not being disrupted by someone else's humiliation. Maya thought of her mother. 30 years ago, in a department store dressing room, the sales clerk had followed them, watching, waiting for theft that never came. Her mother had bought 3 dresses that day, spent more than they could afford, as if purchase could buy back dignity. It couldn't then. It didn't now. Maya looked down at her bag, at the medical badge partially visible through the open zipper. Dr. Maya Richardson, MD, fax, Chief of Cardiothoracic Surgery. She'd earned those letters through sleepless nights and impossible cases, and 17 years of proving herself in rooms that didn't expect her. Patricia Chen's voice echoed, "Excellence is our response." Maya, but what happens when excellence isn't enough? When the armor doesn't fit right? When the credentials don't matter? When being undeniable still leaves you denied? The cabin hummed with pre-flight preparation. Maya closed her bag, hiding the badge. She pressed her head back against the seat and made herself breathe, slow, controlled. The way she breathed during surgery, she wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Maya was 16, when she decided to become someone they'd have to see. Her mother stood in that department store, back straight, voice level, explaining to a manager that following customers around was called racial profiling, and she'd like to speak to someone higher. The manager apologized. Empty words that cost nothing and changed nothing. Maya's mother bought those dresses anyway, handed over her credit card like dignity could be purchased. In the parking lot, Maya asked why she hadn't just left. "Because leaving is what they expect," her mother said. "Staying is the disruption." Maya carried that lesson to medical school. She stayed when professors questioned her answers. She stayed when study groups formed without her. She stayed through residency, through the attending who kept calling her nurse, through the patient who refused her care because of her skin. She stayed and became excellent. Dr. Patricia Chen found her during intern year, exhausted in the hospital chapel at 3 in the morning. Maya wasn't praying. She was just sitting in silence, trying to remember why she'd chosen this particular form of torture. "Because you're good at it," Patricia said, sitting beside her. "And because people need doctors who understand what it means to fight for your life before you ever enter the OR." Patricia Chen was the first black woman, chief of surgery at St. Catherine's. She'd broken ceilings while others pretended they didn't exist. She wore her credentials like a second skin, visible and undeniable. "Excellence is our response," Patricia told her. "Not our shield, our response. You're excellent at medicine. The rest is just noise you learn to operate through." Maya became a surgeon. She published papers, won awards, pioneered techniques. She saved lives that other surgeons said were unsavable. She built a reputation that traveled beyond hospital walls. She thought reputation would matter. Now, on this plane, with her first-class ticket and her empty hands, Maya understood. Reputation matters in the OR. Out here, she was just another woman in seat 2A who wanted champagne. Her phone buzzed again. Jasmine's text. A photo from her dorm room, cap and gown laid out on the bed. "Tomorrow I walk across that stage because you showed me how." "Love you, Mom." Maya's throat tightened. This flight wasn't just about reaching a destination. It was about what she'd teach her daughter in this moment. Sit silent and safe, or speak and risk everything. Patricia's voice returned. "They'll make you choose between dignity and peace. Choose dignity. Peace is what they offer when they want you quiet." Maya touched her phone screen, her daughter's smiling face looking back at her. She opened her bag and pulled out her medical badge. The metal was cool again, reflecting cabin light. She clipped it to her jacket lapel where everyone could see. Jessica moved through the cabin with practiced efficiency, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. Maya watched her, not with anger now, but with the clinical observation she brought to the OR. Reading patients, reading vitals, reading what people tried to hide. Jessica's hands trembled slightly when she reached row 3. The businessman in 3C looked up from his laptop, and Jessica's entire demeanor shifted. Her spine straightened. Her smile brightened. She leaned closer than necessary when serving him coffee. "Thank you, Jessica." the man said, his hand brushing hers on the cup handle. "You're doing excellent work maintaining standards today." Jessica's face flushed with pleasure. "Just doing my job, Mr. Hendricks." Maya's medical training clicked into place. She'd seen this dynamic before. In hospitals, in staff meetings, in the complex hierarchies where approval became currency. Jessica wasn't just prejudiced. She was performing. Every dismissal of Maya had been theater for an audience of one. Mr. Hendricks glanced toward Maya's row, and Jessica followed his gaze. Their eyes met briefly, a shared acknowledgement that made Maya's stomach turn. This wasn't random cruelty. It was deliberate, sanctioned, encouraged. Maya opened her bag fully now. Her medical badge caught the light on her lapel. Inside the bag, her medical journal lay visible. The one with her published article on pediatric cardiac repair, her photo on the contributor page, her hospital ID, her conference speaker badge from last month. She pulled out her tablet and opened her email. Messages from colleagues, from patients' families, from the hospital administrator praising her latest surgery. Proof of everything she'd built, everything she was, but she paused before making it visible. Patricia's voice returned. "Sometimes you have to make them see you. Sometimes you have to force the acknowledgement. But Maya, remember this. You shouldn't have to prove your humanity. You shouldn't have to earn basic respect." "Then what do I do?" Maya had asked. "You decide what you're willing to risk for what you need them to see." Maya looked around the cabin. The man in 2B still hid behind his newspaper. The woman behind her still pretended sleep. The businessman in 3C watched Jessica with proprietary satisfaction. And Jessica moved through the space like she owned it, like Maya's presence was the disruption rather than her cruelty. Maya's daughter was waiting. The graduation was tomorrow. She could sit in silence, endure the flight, arrive intact. That was the safe choice, the smart choice. But then Jasmine would graduate thinking her mother accepted this. That excellence meant swallowing humiliation. That dignity was less important than peace. Maya pressed the call button. The chime echoed through the cabin. Jessica appeared, her expression already hardening into professional displeasure. "Yes, ma'am?" Maya kept her voice level, surgical. "I need to speak with the captain." Jessica's laugh was sharp. "The captain is busy preparing for departure, ma'am." "I understand. I still need to speak with him. It's regarding a potential medical situation developing on this aircraft." Jessica's face paled slightly. Sarah appeared beside her, whispering urgently. Mr. Hendricks leaned forward in his seat. Interested now, Maya's medical badge caught the light again. The badge that usually made people listen. The badge that proved she belonged in rooms where life and death were decided. She waited to see if it would matter here. Jessica's smile returned, but something darker lived beneath it now. "A medical situation? Are you feeling unwell, ma'am?" "I'm fine," Maya said. "I'd still like to speak with the captain." "That's not protocol. If there's a medical emergency, I'm trained to handle it." Jessica crossed her arms. "Are you claiming there's an emergency?" Maya chose her words carefully. "I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon. I believe the captain should be informed that medical personnel are aboard." The words hung in the air. Jessica's expression flickered, surprise, then calculation. Sarah whispered something urgent. Mr. Hendricks leaned back in his seat, watching. "A doctor," Jessica said slowly. She glanced at Maya's medical badge, as if seeing it for the first time. "I see." For a moment, Maya thought it might matter. That credentials could cut through what common decency couldn't. Jessica exchanged glances with Sarah, seemed to soften slightly. "Let me get the senior flight attendant," Jessica said. "Michael handles these situations." She disappeared behind the curtain. Maya's heart rate steadied. Maybe this was it. Maybe speaking up, making her qualifications visible, would shift the dynamic. Other passengers began to look at her differently. The badge had registered. The man in 2B folded his newspaper. "You're a heart surgeon?" "Yes." "That's impressive." He paused. "I apologize if I was—" Presumptuous earlier. Maya nodded but didn't respond. Words were cheap now. Michael emerged from the galley, tall, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone who'd worked flights for decades. His expression was professional, concerned. He approached Maya's seat with Jessica trailing behind. "Dr. Richardson, I understand you wanted to speak with someone." "Yes, I wanted to inform the captain that I'm aboard in case medical assistance is needed during the flight." Michael's expression warmed. "That's very thoughtful. We always appreciate having medical professionals on board." He pulled out a tablet. "Let me just get your information for our records." Relief flooded through Maya. Finally, acknowledgement, respect. She provided her credentials, her hospital affiliation, her contact information. Michael nodded appreciatively. "Excellent. Thank you, Doctor." He glanced at Jessica. "Please make sure Dr. Richardson has everything she needs." Jessica's smile was tight. "Of course." Michael walked away. The cabin felt lighter. Maya exhaled tension she hadn't realized she was holding. The man in 2B smiled at her. The woman behind her had removed her headphones. Jessica returned to the galley, then came back moments later. Her expression had changed again, hardened into something Maya recognized immediately. The performance was over. Michael returned with Jessica, and 2 security officers appeared at the aircraft door. Maya's relief evaporated like water on hot steel. "Dr. Richardson," Michael said, his voice no longer warm, "and we'd need you to deplane." The words didn't make sense. Maya stared at him. "Excuse me. You've been creating an uncomfortable environment for other passengers. For everyone's safety, we need you to leave the aircraft." The cabin went silent. Every eye turned toward her. The man in 2B suddenly found his newspaper fascinating again. The woman behind her replaced her headphones. "I haven't created any environment," Maya said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I asked for champagne and requested to speak with the captain. Ma'am, we have reports of aggressive behavior. And Jessica felt threatened by your tone." Michael's expression was sympathetic, but his words were final. "We take crew safety very seriously." Jessica stood beside him, her face a mask of professional concern, but her eyes held triumph. Mr. Hendricks in 3C sat back with satisfaction, a slight smile playing at his lips. He'd orchestrated this from the beginning. Every nod of approval, every glance, every unspoken encouragement to Jessica. Maya understood now. She'd been cast as the aggressor the moment she'd refused to be invisible. "I'd like to speak with the captain," Maya said. "That won't be necessary." "Please gather your belongings." The security officers moved closer, not threatening but present. Maya's hands shook as she reached for her bag. 16 hours of surgery saving a child's life. 17 years of building a career, a medical badge on her lapel. None of it mattered. She thought of Jasmine waiting at the airport, of the graduation tomorrow morning, of the text, "You're my hero, Mom." Some hero. "Can't even board a plane without being removed." Maya stood. Her legs felt unsteady. She pulled her bag from the overhead compartment, her movements careful and controlled. Give them no excuse, no reason to escalate. Just leave with whatever dignity remained. The aircraft door stood open, late afternoon sun streaming through. Maya walked toward it, security officers flanking her like she was dangerous. The other passengers watched in silence. No one spoke. No one objected. She reached the door. One step and she'd be off the plane, off the flight, away from her daughter's graduation. Then, a voice crackled over the intercom. Deep, authoritative, carrying the weight of command. "This is Captain Williams. Everyone remains seated. No one is deplaning." A pause. "Cabin crew to the cockpit now." The aircraft froze. Michael's face went pale. Jessica's triumph crumbled into confusion. The security officers looked at each other, uncertain. "That means you." "Michael, Jessica, now." The captain's voice carried an edge that cut through hesitation. Jessica and Michael exchanged glances, then walked toward the cockpit. The security officers stepped back from Maya. She stood in the aisle, bag in hand, suspended between staying and leaving. The entire cabin held its breath. The cockpit door remained closed. Minutes stretched like hours. Maya's phone buzzed, Jasmine's text, "Landing soon?" Her thumb hovered over the screen. What could she possibly say? Finally, the cockpit door opened. Maya stood frozen in the aisle, bag clutched against her chest like armor. The security officers had stepped back, but remained present, uncertain. Every passenger watched her, some curious, most uncomfortable, all silent. She was alone in a cabin filled with people. The loneliest kind of alone. Her phone buzzed again. Jasmine. "Mom, you okay? Flight tracker shows you're still on the ground." Maya's throat tightened. What could she tell her daughter? That excellence wasn't enough. That credentials were just metal and paper when people decided not to see them. That her mother, her hero, was being removed from a plane like luggage misplaced. The cockpit door remained closed. Jessica and Michael had been inside for 3 minutes. It felt like 30. Maya's medical training kicked in. Elevated heart rate, shallow breathing, cortisol flooding her system. Fight or flight response. But there was nowhere to fight, nowhere to fly. She thought of Patricia Chen. Excellence is our response, Maya. But Patricia had never told her what to do when excellence didn't matter. When response wasn't enough. The man in 2B had returned to his newspaper, barricading himself behind print. The woman behind her stared at her phone. Mr. Hendricks in 3C checked his watch, annoyed at the delay he'd helped create. No one met Maya's eyes. This was the silence her mother had faced in that department store. The same erasure, the same collective decision to look away, to let it happen, to preserve comfort over confronting wrong. Maya's medical badge hung on her lapel, reflecting overhead light. All those years of proving herself, all those surgeries, those papers, those lives saved. She'd thought if she became undeniable, she'd never have to feel this small again. She'd been wrong. Her bag felt heavy. Her legs trembled. She wanted to sit down, but didn't know if she was allowed. The security officers watched her with expressions that could have been sympathy or could have been impatience. She couldn't tell anymore. The cabin hummed with air conditioning and uncomfortable silence. Maya closed her eyes and tried to remember the feeling of a child's heart beating strong in her hands. The moment when death lost and life won. When her skill mattered more than anything else, she needed to remember that feeling now. The cockpit door opened. Captain Williams emerged first. Tall, broad-shouldered black, with close-cropped silver hair and the bearing of military precision. He wore his uniform like authority made visible. His eyes scanned the cabin with the assessment of someone trained to read situations quickly. His gaze landed on Maya, then traveled to her medical badge. His expression shifted. Recognition, then something harder. Jessica and Michael followed him out, both pale. Michael's confident demeanor had evaporated. Jessica wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Captain Williams walked directly to Maya. She braced herself for another dismissal, another humiliation. "Dr. Richardson?" His voice carried the same authority from the intercom, but softer now. "Yes," Maya managed. "Dr. Maya Richardson, cardiothoracic surgeon at St. Catherine's Hospital." Maya nodded, confused. How did he know? The captain's expression warmed, but his eyes held something fierce. "I thought that was you. Your face was familiar when you boarded." He extended his hand. "My nephew is Marcus Williams. You performed emergency cardiac surgery on him 3 years ago. Valve repair." He coded twice during the procedure. The memory surfaced, a teenager, 17, athlete's body failing him. Impossible repair. Hours of delicate work. She'd refused to lose him. "Marcus," Maya whispered. "He's in college now, pre-med, because of you." Captain Williams's jaw tightened. "He's alive because you wouldn't give up on him." He turned to face Jessica and Michael. "Someone want to tell me why the woman who saved my nephew's life is being removed from this aircraft?" The cabin went silent in a different way now, charged, electric. Jessica opened her mouth, closed it. Michael stepped forward. "Captain, there were reports of disruptive behavior. The passenger was aggressive with the cabin crew." "Aggressive?" Captain Williams repeated the word like tasting something foul. "What exactly did Dr. Richardson do that was aggressive?" She raised her voice. "Made demands." Jessica felt threatened. "I asked for champagne," Maya said quietly. Her voice grew stronger. "I asked for the same service being provided to every other first-class passenger. When I was refused, I requested to speak with you." Captain Williams turned to Michael. "And that's aggressive?" Michael hesitated. Jessica found her voice. "She used her credentials to intimidate us. She claimed to be a doctor. She is a doctor." The captain's voice cut through the excuse like a scalpel. "One of the best cardiac surgeons on the East Coast. But she shouldn't have to be." He looked around the cabin. "Did anyone here witness this alleged aggressive behavior?" Silence. Passengers suddenly fascinated by their armrests, their phones, their magazines. "Anyone?" The captain waited. "Because I find it hard to believe that in a cabin full of people, no one saw anything." A young woman in 4B raised her hand slowly, trembling. I saw what happened." The young woman stood, phone clutched in her hand. She was maybe 22, with auburn hair and the nervous energy of someone about to jump off a cliff. "I'm Erin," she said. "I'm a journalism student at Northwestern. I was filming the clouds when we boarded. I do that. Photograph weather patterns for a project." She held up her phone. "I caught everything." Captain Williams walked to her row. "Everything?" "The whole interaction. I didn't realize what I'd recorded until—" She trailed off, glancing at Maya. "Until it was happening, and I stayed quiet." "I'm sorry. I should have said something immediately. May I see the footage?" the captain asked. Erin handed over her phone. Captain Williams pressed play. The cabin watched him watch the screen. His jaw tightened with each passing second. Maya could hear faint audio from where she stood. Jessica's voice. "This section is for paying customers only." The clink of champagne glasses being served to everyone else. The captain's expression darkened. He replayed a section, turned up the volume. Jessica's voice clearer now. "These people always think they belong everywhere." Gasps rippled through the cabin. Mr. Hendricks in 3C shifted uncomfortably. The man in 2B finally lowered his newspaper. Captain Williams handed the phone back to Erin. "Thank you." He turned to face the cabin, his voice carrying the weight of 20 years commanding aircraft. "In my 2 decades flying, I've had one rule. Dignity is not negotiable. Not for passengers, not for crew, not for anyone aboard my aircraft." He looked at Jessica and Michael. "You're both suspended, effective immediately. This flight is not departing with you as cabin crew." Jessica's face flushed red. "Captain, you can't. This is a union issue. There are procedures, and I'll follow everyone while filing a formal discrimination complaint. Federal law is very clear about civil rights violations." His voice remained calm, deadly calm. "Choose your next words carefully." Michael held up his hands. "Captain Williams, this is a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" The captain's voice rose for the first time. "A doctor, a woman who saves lives, asks for champagne and gets threatened with removal. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice you both made." Mr. Hendricks stood from 3C, his voice loud with entitlement. "This is ridiculous. Over some misunderstanding about champagne? You're delaying an entire flight because someone got their feelings hurt." Captain Williams turned to face him. The cabin temperature seemed to drop. "Sir, I suggest you sit down. Right now. I'm a platinum member of this airline. I fly 50,000 miles a year. You can't speak to me. Sit down." The captain's voice cut like steel. "Or you'll be the next person leaving this aircraft. Your choice." Mr. Hendricks opened his mouth, caught the expression on the captain's face, and sat. The power dynamic had shifted completely. Captain Williams radioed the gate. "I need replacement crew for Flight 447. 2 attendants suspended for discrimination. Also send the station manager." Jessica's face crumbled. "Captain, please." "I have bills." I can't lose this job. You should have thought about that before you forgot that every passenger deserves respect. He turned to Maya. Dr. Richardson, on behalf of this airline, though I have no authority to speak for them, I apologize. Your seat, your champagne, and your dignity should never have been questioned. The cabin erupted in applause. Not everyone. Mr. Hendricks sat in stony silence. The man in 2B clapped weakly. But enough. Enough people willing to acknowledge what they'd witnessed, what they'd been complicit in through silence. Maya felt tears threatening. She pushed them back. Thank you, Captain. Thank you for saving my nephew. He wants to be a doctor like you. Captain Williams smiled. He tells everyone about the surgeon who refused to give up. Erin approached Maya, phone still in hand. Dr. Richardson, I'm sorry I didn't speak up immediately. I was scared. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I'd misunderstood. She paused. I almost deleted the video. But something told me to wait. Maya touched her arm. You spoke when it mattered. That's what counts. I'm writing an article about this, for my journalism class. Erin's voice grew stronger. About the courage to witness. The cost of silence. Jessica and Michael gathered their belongings, escorted off by security. Jessica paused at the door, looked back at Maya. For a moment, something like regret crossed her face. Then she was gone. 2 hours later, with new crew aboard, Flight 447 finally pushed back from the gate. Maya sat in seat 2A, a glass of champagne on her tray table. The replacement flight attendant, Carmen, had brought it with a handwritten note from the airline president. Dr. Richardson, we are investigating this incident thoroughly. Your experience was unacceptable. We will do better. Empty words that cost nothing. But the champagne was real. The seat was hers. And the cabin felt different now, lighter somehow, like a wound that had been lanced. The man in 2B cleared his throat. Dr. Richardson, I owe you an apology. I witnessed what happened and said nothing. I told myself it wasn't my business. He met her eyes finally. That was cowardice. I'm sorry, Maya nodded. Thank you for saying so. I have a daughter, he continued. I'd want someone to speak up for her. I should have been that someone for you. Erin approached from 4B. Would you mind if I interviewed you? For my article? I want to write about what happened, but I want to do it right. What's your article about? Maya asked. The anatomy of silence. How discrimination happens in public with dozens of witnesses. Erin sat in the empty seat across the aisle, and what it takes to break that silence. They talked for an hour. Erin asked thoughtful questions, took careful notes. She'd already contacted the airline, spoken with passenger advocacy groups. The video had been uploaded to a secure server. The story would be told. As they talked, other passengers approached. The woman from 3D apologized for her silence. A businessman from row 5 shared his own story of discrimination, his own moments of being invisible. The cabin became something else, not just a space to travel through, but a place where truth had been spoken. Mr. Hendricks deplaned before departure, choosing to leave rather than face the flight. His seat remained empty, a physical reminder that dignity takes up space. Maya texted Jasmine, delayed but on my way. Got a story for you. Jasmine responded immediately. Are you okay? Maya looked around the cabin. At Erin typing notes on her laptop. At the man in 2B reading with shame-bent shoulders. At Carmen ensuring every passenger had what they needed. Her care genuine. I am, Maya typed back. Learned something important today. 5 hours later, Maya landed. Jasmine waited at arrivals, cap and gown bag slung over her shoulder. She hugged her mother fierce and long. Tell me everything, Jasmine said. They sat in the airport cafe and Maya told her about Jessica and Michael, about Captain Williams, about Erin's video, about the silence and the speaking, about being removed and being defended. What did you learn? Jasmine asked finally. Maya touched her medical badge. That excellence is my response, but it shouldn't have to be my shield. That I can't carry the weight of being seen alone. She smiled. And that sometimes the people who matter most are the ones brave enough to witness, to record. To speak, like Erin, and like Captain Williams, who saw me not just as the doctor who saved his nephew, but as a human being who deserved basic respect. Jasmine held her mother's hand. I'm proud of you, Mom, not because you're a doctor, because you stood up. I learned that from you, Maya said, watching you navigate your world, refusing to make yourself smaller. You taught me courage. They walked out of the airport together, mother and daughter, hero and hero. Tomorrow Jasmine would graduate. Tonight they had stories to share about standing and speaking and the revolution of taking up space. Maya's phone buzzed. A message from Captain Williams. Marcus wants to thank you personally. We'd love to have you visit. He's planning to apply to St. Catherine's Medical School. Maya smiled and saved the message. Full circle. The boy she'd saved was choosing to save others. And maybe that was the real response. Not just excellence, but what excellence could inspire in others. 3 weeks later, Erin's article went viral. The Anatomy of Silence. How a doctor was denied champagne and what it revealed about all of us. Major news outlets picked it up. The video accumulated millions of views. Jessica was terminated. Michael received a 6-month suspension and mandatory bias training. The airline implemented new protocols, mandatory recording of discrimination complaints, independent review boards, cultural competency training for all staff. But the real change was smaller and larger. Passengers on future flights who remembered to speak up, to record, to witness with courage instead of silence, to understand that staying comfortable while others are diminished is its own form of violence. Maya returned to her surgeries, to her operating rooms, to saving lives. But she also spoke at conferences now, not just about medicine, but about dignity, about the cost of silence, about what it means to be excellent in a world that still tries to make you small. Captain Williams and Marcus visited St. Catherine's. Maya gave Marcus a tour of the cardiac wing, showed him where miracles happen daily. You saved my life, Marcus told her. Now I want to save others. Then you will, Maya said. But remember, saving lives happens in operating rooms and on airplanes. Wherever someone's dignity is on the line. Jasmine framed Erin's article and hung it in her dorm room. Below it, she placed her graduation photo with her mother. 2 women standing tall, taking up space, refusing to shrink. The champagne was never about champagne. It was about being seen, being human, being enough exactly as you are, where you are. It was about the courage to speak when silence is easier, the courage to witness when looking away is safer, the courage to stand when sitting down would be simpler. Excellence is a response, not a shield, but sometimes excellence needs witnesses. Sometimes dignity needs defenders. Sometimes revolution is just refusing to disappear when the world suggests you should. Maya keeps her medical badge visible now, not as armor, but as authenticity. Not to prove she belongs, but to remind herself she does. She belongs in operating rooms and first-class cabins, and anywhere she chooses to be. And when her daughter asks about heroes, Maya tells her about Captain Williams, who grounded injustice, about Erin, who found courage to witness, about the small rebellions of refusing to be erased. Heroes are people who speak when silence is expected, Maya says. People who stand when everyone else sits. People who remember that dignity is not negotiable. In a world that tries to make you smaller, taking up your space is not disruption, it's revolution.